In this video, we are telling you what is inverted V antenna, how to construct it and install in a field situation in an open ground. It is called inverted V antenna because its shape is in the form of English letter V in an inverted form. The inverted V antenna is a popular HF antenna used by most of the Indian radio amateurs. It is simple to construct and install, and also the transmission is omnidirectional. The antenna consists of dipole center and it looks like this inside the box. The antenna wire can be bare copper wire, about 18 gauge or a good quality insulated wire. A suitable insulator like egg insulator must be kept at the end of the antenna wire. A nylon wire or a plastic rope or any thread which is not a metallic wire can be used as a wire to tie the insulator and from there to a suitable fixing point. The center dipole and the antenna wire are connected to a suitable 50 ohm coax cable without contacting each other. The coax cable can be RG58U thin cable or RG213 thick cable type. This is the center part of the antenna. On a small insulated plate, fix antenna socket L0209 and solder wires on either sides without touching each other. Or instead of using the socket, the coaxial cable can be directly soldered. Solder antenna wire, one in the center and another on the outer part as seen here, and it can be put in a box like this. The wires can be soldered like this. Here it is shown for two bands. Each side will have two wires each. And it can be attached to a box using screws. An insulation tape or a brown tape can be used on the centerpiece for protecting from rain. During construction, we must be aware that the length of the antenna wire depends on the frequency we propose to use, and the formula to calculate the wavelength of each side of the antenna is 300 divided by frequency in megahertz equal to the wavelength in meters divided by 4. Let us find the length for 7 megahertz. Always use the center frequency during calculation, and when we calculate we get 10.563 meters. Similarly, when we calculate the length for 14 megahertz we get 5.291 meters. For constructing 7 and 14 megahertz antenna, let us measure the antenna wire by spreading the wire and measure it using a tape. Make sure the length of the antenna wire is based on the calculation. For 7 megahertz we have got 10.56 meters. About half meter of extra antenna wire must be there in order to adjust SWR at the end. Similarly, for 14 megahertz the length of the wire should be 5.29 meters. Besides the antenna, make sure the coaxial cable, insulation tape, knife and a plastic thread is ready. The antenna mast can be an iron pipe or a wooden pole or a bamboo stick for about 5 meters or more. The center insulator of the antenna must be tied properly on the top of the pole like this. The coaxial cable has to be connected tightly to the antenna. About 1 meter from the top of the pole, the coax cable must be secured to the pole tightly using some strong thread so that if the coax cable is pulled, it will not affect the center connections of the antenna. Put the insulation tape covering the coax connector fully in order to prevent the water going inside. The pole must be strong and firmly fixed to the ground. A nylon wire or any thread can be used to tie the pole to a suitable fixing point. The coax cable must be running from the top of the pole to the bottom in parallel to the pole. The coax cable must not be run sideways in parallel to the antenna wires.
Must be like this. If this breaks, it will lock. If you are putting other way, if it breaks, it will go away. So like this, I guess it. By any chance it breaks, this will get locked.
Any thread other than metallic thread can be used to tie the insulator and from there to the suitable fixing point. The angle between the wires should be about 90 to 120 degrees for good results. For other bands, the two sides must be also tied in an opposite way away from the other wires. SWR can be varied by slightly adjusting the length of the antenna. Some trial and error method is required for adjusting the SWR. To make everyone understand easily, I am showing you the graphical diagram where 7 MHz is tied in an opposite way and also 14 MHz in an opposite way without these both band touching each other. If there is any extra coax cable, it must be spread out and not to be kept like a round bundle. One end of the coax cable is connected to the antenna and the other end
It should be connected to the radio.
after connecting to the radio, you are ready to go on the air.